Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Candid Frank Live, joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, as usual, thank you for being here.
Hey, Frank, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I'm tickety boo. Actually, I'm trying my luck at some stuff, and I'm not very good at it. And when you're not really good at something, it gets kind of frustrating, and it takes a long time to do it. And it just. But you know what? It is what it is. We get by. Starting on my goodness. An NHL draft pick, Logan Mailloux, faces uncertain future after criminal charge in Sweden. What the heck? Hope the kid's okay.
The kid is just fine. He was 17 at the time that the incident took place, involving an 18-year-old girl, and he took a picture in flagrante delicto, as it were, and shared it amongst his teammates.
Oh boy.
So yeah, it's because he was a minor. Mailloux has actually given the website Daily Face-Off permission to speak about the event. He was fined the equivalent of $1,650 US and told to apologize. And basically, what it worked out to actually was a total fine of 7,000 Swedish krona for offensive photography, which was taking a picture of the act, and 30,000 Swedish krona, or about $3,500 US, for defamation. In Sweden, part of the fine for a crime like that is payable to the victim of said crime. So
only right.
Yeah, and this is basically the way it's turned out. As it stands, before this information came to light, Mailloux was on every team's draft list. It wasn't, and the teams were aware of it. He interviewed with 17 or 18 different teams over the course of the past couple of months since returning from Sweden in the tail end of March, and all the teams knew about it. He didn't start appearing on their do not draft list until this news broke.
So they knew about the incident?
Oh, all the teams knew. He was very upfront about it.
So when it became public,
yes,
the teams changed their mind.
Yes.
I want to repeat that. When it became public, the teams decided not to draft him.
This is very reminiscent of a certain situation going on in a Midwestern state right now, where all of a sudden everybody's in trouble after certain events were brought to light.
You could say it got Illinois-y recently.
And the issue that I have here, and a lot of people are saying it's because of his youth, he should be excused, he automatically deserves a second chance. Now, hear me out, Frank, because this is where I come in on this. And I've said this before, and I've mentioned it to Brock McGillis online on Twitter before as well. Every time this comes up, we have to mention the hockey pipeline starts at about 11 years old. These kids don't have a chance to mature. They're sheltered. They're coddled. They don't know right from wrong. This still doesn't excuse the fact that he took a picture and shared it. Right from wrong. That is very obviously wrong. Sharing it with your teammates to try to get in with them as a cool kid is still wrong. He has to earn it. And so far, he's apparently showed no remorse for his actions, just one of those boilerplate apology things, and off we go to the races. So I'm not having it. He should be on every team's D&D list.
Okay. Can I weigh in now?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, Frank. It just gets me heated.
No, it's okay. I get heated too sometimes, and you back up. So I back up this time. It's no big deal. When people have conversations, sometimes the floor is taken by someone, and it may not be comfortable, but it happens. We take turns. Obstinance is something that you fall into, and sometimes people are obstinate to, at the default. You're not being obstinate by default. This is just something that's near and dear to your heart. What I was going to say is, I don't really know what's going on. What I will say is, in the context of his age, I think the context of his age needs to be remembered, right? How old he is. I'm not saying he deserves to be getting a second chance. No, what he should be getting is the first chance to prove that he's willing to make change, and he's willing to do something that makes the victim feel better. And as long as the victim feels better and has been made to understand that this was unacceptable, and they feel an apology was a good one. Unfortunately, things like this are like Pandora's box, right? You can't unsee the picture. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just serious. You can't unsee the picture. Once you've seen the picture, you've seen the picture. Now, hopefully, that picture does not find, I don't know how you make it invisible, how you get rid of it, how it never shows up again. What this young lady is going to be dealing with is a future that she's not sure doesn't include it. And trust me when I say this, when you don't know what's coming down the pipe, it creates a little stress. So my concern for this young lady is that the stress that she's going to feel when everybody thinks everything's all worked out and everything's fine, she still has to deal with the thought of that reappearing at some point, what he did is he opened Pandora's box, can't be closed. And I don't know how you punish in this situation. Being the age that he was is no excuse. It's just something that I understand. It's different than somebody who's a mature adult doing something like that. Every situation, my final comment on this is, we need to look at every situation based on the facts that are directly involved in that situation. So this act by him, we look at it from that perspective. If it's by someone else, blah, 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 then we look at it that way. But what he did was wrong. And hockey players need to learn that they are not the center of the universe. And this doesn't just belong to hockey players. This is athletes. Athletes sometimes, you referred to coddling. Of course they're coddled. They're being told over and over again how great they are, how wonderful they are. What do you want? What can I do for you? And your future, you're going to make millions and millions of dollars, even if they don't, because we also know that they're coddled like they're going to be superstars, and many of them aren't. And they end up in a situation where if they're not prepared, they have to live a life without being a superstar. That's something I'm not saying they deserve sympathy, but I do think we need to understand that. So those children that think they're going to be superstars, we'll see what happens with women as more and more women become superstars. We'll see how they handle superstardom or the the availability of superstardom. We'll see how they handle it. They're human beings. They make mistakes, but those mistakes need to be corrected and somehow taken care of in a decent way. So do you think he handled it like you're saying? To what do you attribute the fact that he's not sincere?
There are other reports outside of the main article that I used for this that indicated that he doesn't seem to show remorse over it. It was more, let's just get this out of the way so I can get back to playing hockey.
Well, not to throw Austin Matthews under the bus. He made mistakes too. He did things, nothing like that. But he made mistakes. And I think one thing that these athletes should do, what they should be made to do, all of them that do stuff like this, they should be put in front of crowds to discuss what they did, to ensure, and those crowds should include all athletes. You understand where I'm going with this? What I did, like they need to be an example, and they need also forgiveness. And if they're willing to give their pound of flesh, Aaron, if they sincerely go out there and say, look, what I did was wrong. I made that girl feel really low. You know, Austin Matthews can say the same thing. I made that security guard feel unsafe. It was wrong what I did. And they need to tell it to other players, other young athletes, and send that message to them that they're human, not gods. And that, I think, is the bottom line here, right?
Definitely. Okay. It's embracing your current reality and acknowledging the fact that you are human.
Right. Well, being brought down to earth. You know,
Yes.
There's a good side to this too, because nothing's worse about an athlete when they're treated like gods and like, look what it's like to be a Maple Leaf. New child support payments from Biden government they're starting to go out. And I like what they said when they were asked about this child credit. They quoted the fact that Canadians and other governments in the world have done it, and they've had a lot of success with it. And so that's why they're doing it. So Biden has been watching the Canadian government, how it deals with this Canadian child credit, and they think it's a good idea.
Well, you know, I mean, taking on I believe it was called the baby bonus at one point, wasn't it?
Right,
it was payable up until the age of 18.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good idea. And no, before people start to jump on this, it's not encouraging low-income families to have more sex for the money. That's not how it works. There are qualifications for that.
They don't give you that much money. You're not making that much money.
It's not enough to start your own football offensive line, put it that way. It's enough. It's to get you through. It's to make sure that you have your diapers, you have your food, that sort of thing. I mean, the credit plateaus at $2,000 a child and starts to phase out for single parents who are earning more than $200,000 a year.
Spread over a year.
Yes. It's not like a monthly thing. It's $2,000 over the year.
That part. That's important, that it's spread out over a year. It's not $2,000 a month. The thing of it is what it does. I think what it does. You know, it went into my wife's account, so it wasn't something that but I think it also it helps in putting in parents' minds that there's a little bit of help out there. They're not that desperate. It doesn't help them that much. It reminds parents, that they have to take care of their children, and here's a chance for you to get some help. They need to have their basic things. We're lucky we have a decent healthcare system that is one of the better ones in the world. We can complain about it. We can argue about it. We can do all kinds of things. But what we can't say is that people aren't dying outside hospitals because they can't go in. More importantly, poverty in children is one of the worst things that societies like ours should be not dealing with, because childhood poverty is probably one of the worst things. Seeing people on the street, that really disgusts me. It really bothers me to see that. Now, but those are adults. To an extent, they make a choice, right? Children, absolutely no choice. They're born poor. They're born without. And what's been proven over time is that healthy children growing up healthy is less expensive to the government. The healthcare system isn't as burdened when children are raised on decent nutrition, decent food, decent love, decent respect. They become positives in society, whereas some others end up needing help more and more and more. So it's an investment. This money that the government is giving, the child tax credit, is an investment, and good for the Americans to figuring that out. Apparently, it's wiping out, I think I heard, 90% of childhood poverty.
Well, that's a good thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is a good thing. Welcome to phase 3.
At long last.
How long are we here for, Aaron? Yesterday,
now there were 100
really bad news everywhere. The Yankees, 6 players had COVID. They're talking about canceling that game. They've canceled some games, and Aaron, we were just so close, man. Close.
But yeah, now 25 people indoors and 100 people outdoors is now permitted, so that's a good thing. Gyms, cinemas, theaters, museums, and other venues can reopen for indoor service, but with limited capacity. Now, we only had 159 cases of COVID-19 today, so that's a start. But you know, a lot of people are finally looking forward to this. Our 7-day average has finally dropped to about 151. We completed about 28,000 tests the other day, and our province-wide test positivity rate is finally under 1%. So everything is trending in the right direction for this to happen. And it's been about 3 weeks exactly since we entered phase 2. I definitely have my fingers crossed. It's you know, but we're getting there. And with over 60% of the population in Toronto finally double vaxxed, and creeping upwards of 45 outside, then this is, you know, this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is good. And you know, unfortunately, there are some issues on the horizon. LA is masking again. You know, they've canceled some events. Things are in the US are getting a little testy. It's all about vaccinating and not, you know, the non-vaccinating public who don't wish to be vaccinated. There's athletes right now that you know, we're getting to the point where teams are admitting that there are a lot of athletes, a lot of players that do not wish to be vaccinated. The question in the clubhouse is going to be, are the vaccinated players, because, you know, you still can get COVID even when you're fully vaccinated. The question is, and the answer so far is, that it doesn't hurt you as bad as it would if you don't have the vaccine. So it's going to be an interesting situation over the next few weeks. I got my fingers crossed. You know, it's something that you know, honestly, I've come to the realization, Aaron, and I think at some point, I think we're going to have to understand that some people, no matter what, don't want to get vaccinated. You'll literally have to drag them kicking and screaming to get vaccinated. I feel they have a right not to be vaccinated. I don't agree with it. I think it's, you know, it's stupid not to get vaccinated, but that's my mental thinking. That's I can't put myself in some, you know, some people just don't want to put a foreign substance in their body. But we do it all the time. You know, that's the part that kind of bothers me. So what we have to do, I think, Aaron, what do you think? We have to act as if, you know what? So let's come up with a plan that deals with the fact that a lot of people don't want to get vaccinated. How do we, you know, we heard Winnipeg. Winnipeg said we're bringing in fans and they'll all be vaccinated if they want to come in. You know, that stuff's going to happen.
Now, someone was arguing with me over Facebook in a post that was
Facebook,
put up.
Someone was arguing with you?
I know.
Oh man,
who knew? And it was about the Moonshine Cafe in Oakville and their no jab, no tab program. Meaning, if you haven't been double vaxxed, you are not welcome in their establishment. And someone mentioned that it was going to create an involuntary second-class citizen of people who decided not to get vaccinated. And my thinking on that is, if you don't want to get vaccinated, fine, great. I have received my vaccination. Now, it doesn't mean that I won't get COVID. Odds are I will. But it means that when I do get it, because inevitably I'm pretty sure I will, when I do get it, it won't be as bad. I will have a better likelihood of surviving. I will take cold feet and a headache and joint pain for 6 hours, 12 hours after my initial poke, as I always do when I get my flu shot, which, funnily enough, is for something that happened almost 100 years ago, over 100 years ago. That's still with us. So, you know, it's going to be around. I will take that any single time over actually getting the flu or getting COVID, because I have a friend in Indiana who had to have a double lung transplant. She was a,
there's the other thing they're finding out, Aaron, and young people are under the misconception that it doesn't bother them. It's not going to bother them. They'll survive it. Here's the bad news for young folks. You can survive it, but you won't survive it as healthy as you were before you got it. They have done tests, and they have found that there have been young folks who've had COVID and they've had brain damage. They've had brain damage. I'm talking about damage that's irreparable, right? So I don't know. Make your decision. I'm of this. I'm going to get vaccinated. I want people to be vaccinated. I can't force them to get vaccinated. I hope the people who don't get vaccinated don't learn the hard way that they should have been vaccinated. I have heard a lot of people, and this is the point, folks. You're going to have to grin and bear this, non-vaccinated people who don't want to get vaccinated. I've heard more people change their tune about COVID because they experienced it not after not believing it. But I haven't heard that many people who've been vaccinated who have a lot to complain about. We hear that something's going on, but we don't hear from anybody in particular. You hear what I'm saying? We hear about a woman that says after she got vaccinated, she had a stroke. Right now, was it the vaccine that caused the stroke? Because people get strokes right now who don't get vaccinated. That let's not convolute things, right? Let's not blame everything on the vaccination that happens after you get vaccinated, because stuff happens to people vaccinated or not. I'm a diabetic, not because of the vaccine. I'm a diabetic. That's just the way it is. And if you discover that you're a diabetic, after you have the vaccination, doesn't mean the vaccine gave you the disease. People become diabetics. That's why they call it pre-diabetes. So, I just haven't heard anything that frightens me about taking it. I know there's a risk. I hope I'm wrong. I hope maybe someday I'll regret having taken the vaccine, but not yet. I haven't.
I've lived too long. That will be my one regret, Frank.
Okay, this man here that you want to talk about, I want to stick it to him.
Oh, yeah. So this is what happened in Stanley Park in the King Street West Walnut area in Toronto. There was a gentleman named Michael Park who was walking around with a swastika drawn on his chest by a nearby synagogue, who was accosting individuals coming out and asking them asking them their faith, and then proceeding to throw objects at them and seek healing, and going on about how the Jewish people were not part of the Aryan race and they weren't worthy. So, of course, he got filmed and the police picked him up. So this is a good thing. He got trapped. He got busted for it. So I just the rise of hate crimes seems to go along with, and I'm not sure if this individual had COVID or not, but it definitely seems that there was something amiss in the first place. So we'll leave it at that for now, but this individual has been taken into custody for doing that.
Is there any hateful speech, hateful attitude, hateful act that can be explained by anything other than some sort of issue in a person? Because anybody who's well-adjusted and or, happy in life, content in life, I know we all get at a point where we get, upset and frustrated, and maybe that's it too. But to me, that kind of hate and that kind of stuff, there's something wrong with somebody. There's something brewing there that we need to look at. So I hope, as part of the charge that this guy gets, or any kind of legal entanglement that he finds himself in, I hope he finds some help, even help that he may not know he needs.
Now, there is the other possibility that, quite frankly, he's just an a-hole and he was taught to hate. So True. It may not necessarily be that he suffers from a debilitating mental illness or he suffers from a lack of cognition. It may entirely be based on the way that this individual was raised.
There you go. So again, I'm not calling this guy a victim. I'm not calling him somebody that, oh, he's broken, he needs to be fixed. But what I'm saying is, this guy's broken. He needs to be fixed. I don't. I'm just saying he's broke. He needs to be fixed. And by fixed, goodness gracious, there's a lot. Hey, listen, I went to therapy. I had therapy. I suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. I was afraid I woke up having nightmares thinking my children were going to kill me. I had a pretty interesting life after my experience, and how I ended up with post-traumatic stress disorder, that I can understand that people may not understand, that mental illness comes in many forms, and many of those forms, unfortunately, you don't walk around with a sign on your forehead that says, I have mental issues, right? And there's no sign there. So the only signs we can go by are acts like this. Hatred is something that isn't necessarily something that is natural. It's untoward in my mind. I don't like hate. It doesn't. Just like I like the idea that you put an extra stop in on a subway line. I think that's always a great idea. So they're doing that and adding an extra stop on the North Subway extension.
Yeah, so what's going to be happening now is they've added a fourth station at Clark Avenue in my family's old stomping grounds of Thornhill, which is absolutely fantastic. So as it currently stands, there's a stop that's going to be on Steeles, Richmond Hill Center, Highway 7 and Highway 407, and now Young Street and Clark, which is it's absolutely fantastic because it takes a lot of pressure off people who once they get to Finch to try to find alternatives such as Go and Viva and Richmond Hill Transit. So that will help a lot in that regard.
Yeah, no. When it comes to transit locally, and when it comes to traffic locally, that's a pretty busy that's a pretty busy corridor.
Yeah. Now there are also adding new bike lanes to help people get to the new proposed station as well. So they're encouraging people to leave the vehicles behind and take a slightly more environmentally friendly and people-friendly mode of transit.
Is it my imagination, or has there been a better relationship between bike riders and people who drive cars downtown, or are we still having, the odd incident where I this is my lane, I'm a bike rider, get out of my way, or this is a car and I'm going, look, I need to get there, forget your bike lane. Are we calming down? Because at the beginning that was an adjustment period that really had some hellish experiences for some.
Well, I speaking personally, I know I used to walk from my offices at Queen and University down to Union Station every day after work, and they did have dedicated bike lanes around, not on Yonge, but on other streets like Simcoe and John and that sort of thing, that they deliberately separated from the road with heavy planters and little pylons that would snap back if cars accidentally ran them over when that sort of thing. So there is, I think, a little bit of improvement there. However, the Vision Zero project hasn't really gone as well as it could have. There are still a lot of pedestrian and cyclist deaths in crosswalks because drivers aren't taking the time to look or just not seeing them.
Exactly.
So some of it has improved. On the other hand, some of it has not.
They're doing a better job. The province is doing a better job when it comes to the alerts on our phones, our televisions and such. They're not so repetitive, but they do get the message across. There's no need to repeat it every 30 seconds. Get it out there. And it seems to be working. People where I live were in the corridor of a tornado watch. It did land east of on Mapleview in Barrie, east of the 400 general area, under the lake, if you will, in South Barrie. I understand you had a friend close by. I hope everybody's okay. We survived it fine. Thank you very much. It wasn't that bad here. The winds weren't that. It was okay, but we got the warning.
I'm very relieved to hear that. I know that it went out at about 2:30 to 2:45, I believe, yesterday, and footage started rolling in of the damage that had been done less than half an hour to 45 minutes later. Now, I am glad that there weren't as many warnings, that they didn't spam us with them. But at the same time, I'm glad enough people had the opportunity to get themselves into shelter. I believe. I think something like only a dozen people were actually injured from where the tornado actually touched down. The damage was absolutely devastating, but at the same time, it doesn't appear to be as bad as it could possibly have been.
Yes, and that's the important thing. I didn't hear of any lives being lost or anybody being injured. hopefully nobody did, and hopefully everything's fine. These things, stuff like this happens, and when it comes close to home, it's interesting, I'll tell you. A 24-year-old is charged with arson for the 2020 Micmac fishery plant fire. Tell us more.
So during the recent upheaval between settlers and First Nations fishermen, there was a fire in Middle West Pubnico that took place around midnight in October of 2020. Thankfully, nobody was in the building at the time. But this was about 2 days after a confrontation at the plant when about 200 settlers and their supporters converged on the building, which was storing lobster, caught by one of the First Nations bands in the area. Now, the band's fishery had originally risen to people's attention in September when it first started setting lobster traps in St. Mary's Bay before the start of the federally regulated fishing season. Now, this is because this is part of their treaty rights. They are allowed subsistence fishing as well as mild commercial. Many of the white folk in the area who rely on fishing were claiming that their 250 traps would cause irreparable damage as compared to the almost 35,000 traps that the white fishermen used. So there's a little bit of a tempest in a teacup and overblowing things on the white folks' part in an attempt to intimidate the First Nations fishermen. There were incidents where flare guns were fired at boats on the water, as well as live rounds from shotguns. So this is something that captured national attention and then quickly faded. I am glad to see that they have finally moved forward with this. So hopefully we'll get a resolution. They did actually have images of two men walking away from the fish plant on the night of the arson, but found it difficult to locate them because most of the white fishermen in the area were protecting them.
Okay. So nobody snitched on them.
No, apparently it actually took decent police work by the RCMP to actually charge them.
Well, there you go. Justice Minister asks for investigation of lawyers. Boy, oh boy.
Oh, this is a follow-up from the one that we covered earlier this week about the lawyer that hired a PI to follow the judge in a case that they were going after about violation of COVID protocols. So the president of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms had already resigned. That would be John Carpay. And as it currently stands, Cameron Freeland, who's the Attorney General of Manitoba, says he's asked the Law Society of Manitoba to initiate an investigation into the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms to see what sort of shenaniganery they're getting up to on top of what they've already discovered. I mean, I figure if there's some corruption here, there must be more. So let's see if we can find that.
Well, lawyers are people, and people do dumb things. Some people do bad things. So it is what it is. If they want to look into it, I guess they should. Moon wobble affects Canada's coastal cities is right around the corner, say experts.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught this, but there was a wobble in the moon's orbit. That's NASA's words, by the way, not mine. But it is possible.
I used to work on roofs, and we walked on planks. You'd have to walk consistently and not too quickly. Otherwise, you'd end up with a speed wobble.
So according to a study published in the journal Nature by researchers from NASA and the University of Hawaii, there are going to be some changes in the moon's orbit, slight fluctuations. I don't think it'll be crashing to Earth anytime soon, so we don't have to worry about that. But it will affect high tide levels over the next several years. And with climate change being what it is, and most American cities on the coast building right out on the water, this could potentially have devastating effects.
Yeah, take care. I mean, climate change or not, and I say this in sincerity, climate change or not, we can't and shouldn't believe that we don't affect the world around us. We shouldn't That's one thing we can't believe. And it's not about climate change for me. It's about changing some of our behavior to ensure that we have clean water, you know, at its root, right? Which is one of the issues that we have right now, that a lot of people don't have clean water. Okay, let's go over to some hockey now. And the Bruins reportedly are not interested in Vladimir Tarasenko. So the Tara show isn't going to Boston.
No, it doesn't appear so. I know that Tarasenko had requested a trade about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago because he's reportedly unhappy with how the St. Louis Blues handled his multiple shoulder surgeries. He's 29 years old now. He's in the 7th year of an 8-year, $60 million deal he signed back in 2015. He's got a cap hit of $7.5 million for the next 2 seasons, but he's hardly played any games in the past couple of years. So, especially with the pandemic shortened season and then this modified short season here, I don't think he's been living up to it, mainly because he feels he's too injured. So the Bruins have decided at this point that they're not going to take a flyer on him. It's just not something they can put $15 million towards over the next 2 years.
No, the Bruins are very cost conscious, and they do a good job of signing the players that they have to reasonable contracts. I'm not talking penny pinching here. I'm talking dollar wise, not pound foolish. NHL rumor roundup. Landeskog. Oh, this is a guy. I don't know. This is a guy that has a reputation of being a great leader. And he's not the best player on Colorado, but some suggest that he's one of the reasons why that team has a lot of success. Is this a guy maybe that some teams might be interested in, like the Maple Leafs, maybe?
You never know. I mean, you know, I think it would be interesting if we were to pick him up, but as it currently stands, I'm not 100% sure we'd be able to necessarily foot the bill. It all depends on what he's been asking, who we have to move to shoehorn in, and whatnot. I mean, as it is, July 13th was the deadline for asking players to waive their no move clause for the expansion draft. July 16th, which is today, is the last day to put a player on waivers prior to the expansion draft, and the deadline for players to agree to waive their no move clauses. Tomorrow at 3, the expansion trade draft and waiver freeze starts. By Saturday at 5 p.m., teams have to submit their protected lists. So it's coming down to the wire here, and the expansion draft is going to be on July 21st.
Yeah, it's an interesting time of year.
Yeah,
great time to be a hockey fan as far as hope is concerned. You know, because nothing kills hope more than the start of a season. Bucks and Suns are tied 2-2. Bucks came back from a 2-0 deficit.
Yeah,
they got the big mo right now, but they're going back to Phoenix.
This is where things are going to get interesting. I know Phoenix is currently favored to win. Dante DiVincenzo is currently out, for the Bucks, and Dario Saric is currently out for the Phoenix Suns. Also, Sam Merrill is day-to-day for the Bucks as well. We'll have to see how this affects who comes off the bench as well. I know that Antetokounmpo has been on fire. That player has been absolutely magnificent. Hopefully his knee issues don't reappear in these last few games, but we'll have to take a look-see and see how that goes. It'll be on TV tomorrow for anybody interested in watching. I'm not gonna tell you which station it is because they don't sponsor us. So, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it.
Who does sponsor? Never mind. The Blue Jays, 4.5 games out of a wild card spot. They slipped a little. 4.5 games is not, Springer's in now. We'll see, what this team can do. They're ahead of the Yankees, just to give you an indication of how money doesn't buy you a good team, or doesn't guarantee you winning. what do the Jays need in your mind? I mean, the obvious is, relief pitching. That's what they seem to need. They have great bats.
They have no problems putting the ball over the wall or putting the ball into play. Um, Personally, I'm a fan of small ball. The Jays do know how to do that. They do know how to get players on base and then how to cash them in. But the real problem has consistently been their closers. We're not even talking middle relief. We're talking the guys at the end of the night, the guys that you bring in for the 8th inning and the 9th inning. Those particular pitchers haven't been able to keep it together to get the Blue Jays over the hump. So I know they made a couple trades recently for some pitching, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to help. But the next few games will see it out. They've had a nice little rest here as well over the All-Star break before they get back into it. And at 45 and 42, it's not out of the question that they can climb back up the standings.
Well, it's about winning the games against the teams you need to win, and not losing to the teams you shouldn't lose to. Those are the two most important things that you can do to make the playoffs. Don't lose to the teams you're not supposed to. And beat those teams that you need to.
It seems to be a disturbing trend with a lot of Toronto franchises that they play down to the level of their opponents, but can never seem to play up.
Well, if they don't do either of those two things, you know where they finish in the lottery. CFL announces that 10 individuals have returned a positive test for COVID-19. The CFL announced earlier that they were doing a lot of testing, and the testing has turned up 10 individuals. Their names haven't been released, correct?
As far as I'm aware, no. Now, they have administered approximately 6,000 tests to Tier 1 personnel, which means players, coaches, and support staff. They're supposed to kick off a 14-game regular season August 5th. 5 of the positive tests occurred before the individuals traveled to their respective CFL markets, and those 5 individuals won't be allowed to travel. Evidently, the other 5 came after they arrived, so those individuals will have to isolate to make sure that it doesn't spread.
Absolutely, and well, good luck. Hopefully, they'll work that out. Laren scores twice to help Canada beat COVID-depleted Haiti in the Gold Cup. Good for Canada, doing well in soccer.
Yeah, no, it was actually nice to see. This was one of the Gold Cup games, so as it is, we've almost secured a berth into the CONCACAF Championship quarterfinals. So that's a good step. The United States defeated Martinique 6-1. So both Canada and the States have advanced to the knockout round ahead of their match Sunday to determine who finishes atop Group B. So this is the first time. Sorry, I was going to say, Frank, this is actually the first time in 15 trips to CONCACAF that Canada has qualified for the next round with one match remaining. We finally secured a spot without having to fight and claw our way in at the last second.
The big win at the end of the run. Yeah, no, that's great. It's obviously different territory, but what I got to say is Canadian soccer has really developed well. And, they're doing the thing that they could never do that we always heard complained about by the experts. Canada couldn't score. Well, they can now. And it's true. If you can put the ball in the net, you got a better chance to win. And apparently that's happening for Canada right now. Good for them. Always like to see that Canadian teams are doing well. And the Canadian men, aren't as good in the world as the Canadian women, but they've narrowed the gap, and that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, Canada, the Canadian women's national team has had a cheat code by the name of Christine Sinclair.
Absolutely. You want to talk about being able to score? BC is entertaining thoughts of bringing home the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Are they doing it alone?
No, this is basically North America that is hosting this.
Right.
So, as it stands, Montreal decided to back out of hosting games. I guess they felt that Saputo Field wasn't going to be sufficient, or whatever facilities they had. So
And
this
there's
is
the question of what teams come to your venue, right? There's a little bit of, well, you know, we want to make sure we get the guys that'll sell out.
And as it currently stands, because Montreal has bowed out, that only leaves Edmonton and Toronto as the only Canadian cities bidding to host games during the tournament, which is being held in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So this is a huge opportunity for the Whitecaps' home stadium to be showcased for the world, because it's a fantastic facility.
Now, they don't have natural grass.
No. Which will make things interesting.
You can put natural grass indoors. The question is the cost prohibitive or not? So at the end of the day, I wish BC the best. Great province, great soccer province, one of the real hotbeds of soccer in Canada. Football, if you are in BC.
So yeah, it creates a power void, right? I'm not necessarily a power void in that sense, but in the sense that there's now room for another city to step up. There are currently 17 cities in the States and 3 in Canada and 3 in Mexico who are currently looking to host games. So we'll probably end up cutting that total number of 23 down to 16 for the actual tournament.
We have some time left, and when we have time left, we scrounge for something, and I've decided to offer this. Green leader Enemy Paul is being forced to confront some problems. Some people want to revoke her membership. I mean, I know early I was getting emails from them, because I get emails from them and the Liberal Party. Don't ask me how it happened. I just get them. And I haven't done anything to not get them, because I'm curious from time to time. Early in her leadership, she was sending out emails and asking me if I wanted to run. Not me who I am, me just a number, okay? Let me make that clear, right? Where she was looking for new members in her government and in her party. I suspected at that time that it wouldn't go well. I don't think, you know, automatically we're going to start, you know, because she's a person of color. Is it because of her being black? Is it because she's different? Is it because she feels that her party should make excess changes? Because really, when she puts out a email like that and says, I'm looking for new members, how do you think the other members are going to feel that are already part of the group? I mean, I saw this coming, Aaron, and I couldn't see it not happening, because to do that, to just basically say, that's it, toss everything out, let's start over, especially with a party that has advanced to, I'll call it limited success, but success nonetheless. She may have tried to change this party too radically. And by change, I mean bring in new membership. I'll let the reality of time and or information help people understand what that exactly looked like. I don't want to presume anything. It'd be real easy to say, well, let's see now. I'm a racist. So I'm going to say she's black. She's going to bring all black people, and that's all she cares about. Right? You know what I'm saying? And that isn't what I'm looking for. That isn't what I think it is. But I do think it's something to do with, I suspect, that she needed to come in with a little less of, you know, torching the place. And I think she may have come across, I know she came across that way with me, that she was torching the party and basically saying, nope, the way this doesn't work. I want to see new members. Ones that I got.
It did sound at first, and I was getting emails from them as well. So
it did. Talking about then, you know what I'm talking about.
It did sound like, to put it in sports terms, it did sound like she was looking to tank to get the #1 draft pick and start a rebuild. Is basically what it looked like. I don't want to say she was going scorched earth on this, but it was pretty close.
Yeah. Oh, good. I think so I'm not crazy then.
No, I think it did rub several groups in the party the wrong way. So, I mean, they're encouraging a membership review. They're looking at withholding funds for her to actually campaign should there be an election upcoming.
Yes.
There are others that have left the party because of the party's stance on the Israel-Palestine situation.
They've moved to the left. If left is, I don't even know if that's even fair. I don't know if it's a left or right issue. I mean,
Jenica Atwin left because she was dissatisfied with Paul's stance on the Middle East conflict, saying forced evictions must end. I stand with Palestine and condemn the unthinkable airstrikes in Gaza and apartheid. So, and then she crossed the floor to sit with the liberals, who, I'm puzzled by that move, quite frankly, Frank.
I know, and they of course welcomed her. I have to say, and it's hard to say because if it's sometimes an issue, right, where this particular issue, when diving into Israel, its makeup and its future, it's full of landmines, Aaron, politically. It doesn't matter where you put your foot, you're going to find one. So I'm not going in there because that's a ring of fire as far as I'm concerned. But what I will say in regards to her and her leadership, it doesn't sound like she's even willing to back off on what she was trying to do. It doesn't sound like, you were, and this is not she didn't commit any crimes. She didn't do anything, we're not talking social injustice here. What I am talking about is poor management. That's what I'm thinking has gone on here. And her poor management has come back to bite her on the posterior.
Well, the good news is that we'll find out on Tuesday, because that's when they're holding the no confidence vote.
Right. And it's going to go through. I don't see it not going through.
And I just find it interesting that she ended up with 54% of the vote to become a leader of the party. And in not all that much time at all, she's managed to erode all of the goodwill that she may have accrued over that time leading up to her election as leader. I think also the fact that she's not, if I recall correctly, she's not sitting in Parliament. Yeah.
No, not yet. That's what they're doing. They're not supporting her and running for the seat that she needs to be in Parliament.
Well, they need a 75% majority. So 75% of the council will have to vote in favor of removing her in favor of a non-confidence vote on July 20th.
Yeah. So for those of us, another athletic term is that the call's been made. Now to unmake the call, it needs to be really, really obvious that the call was a mistake, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah. So we're talking about the VAR has to show conclusively what happened.
Absolutely. She has to be completely guilty for them to get rid of her, whatever that guilt or whatever that thing that she did was.
Now, it's actually a two-step process as well. Sorry, Frank. It's actually a two-step process, because once the council votes on the 20th of July, there's a second vote that will have to be held on August 21st at the Green Party's general meeting.
Right. And yeah, because what this is all about, and I want to make this clear, and this is what I don't want to see. Because she's a person of color, this is not about, I don't think there's anything that has to do with racism. I really believe this has to do with bad management on her part. And by bad management, for goodness sake, I mean, she made some political decisions that weren't good in a political environment. You can't, it just, we're at the point now, and maybe another day when we have time, I've become anti-woke. And by anti-woke, I mean, it's become so cool to run things that existed before and keep picking on people for things that happened 100 years ago. We're forgetting to look forward, to look around us and look forward, because we're spending so much time looking in the rearview mirror. That car that we're going to that put on its brakes, we're not going to see it put on its brakes, and we're going to drive right into it. That's what I mean by my anti-wokeism. Anyway, we won't have any more time left. I got to say the last word this time, Aaron. You're welcome. My pleasure. Thanks, Aaron, buddy. You're awesome.
Thanks, Frank.
Good topics today.
Yeah.
For
I think it worked well.
For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live. Aaron, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time. And that's Monday.